Hi everyone. There are some things in chapter 3 that I would like to discuss with you. But first, let's talk about what we're doing, what we're trying to get at this point in the course. Just as if you're going to go on a search for bush babies, the first thing you ask yourself is, what is a bush baby? So too, if we want to go on a search for moral rightness with regard to the abortion issue or with regard to a particular war or capital punishment, the first thing we should ask ourselves is, what is rightness? What makes an act right? What do all right acts have in common that make them right? And if we can figure out an answer to the question, what makes an act right, then when we look at the abortion issue and we ask whether abortion is right or wrong, we'll have something we can use to assess the morality of abortion. We'll know where to look. We'll know how to find the answer to whether abortion is right or wrong. So, in asking this question, what is rightness? What is this thing we talk about, we refer to all the time? We're trying to take this abstract concept of rightness and bring it down to earth to make it less vague, less fuzzy. And the cultural relativist says, I'll tell you what rightness is. I'll tell you what makes an act right. An act is right when the majority of the culture approves of it. That's what it is for an act to be right. Rightness equals being approved by the culture. They are one and the same thing. So when you're thinking about cultural relativism, you need to get yourself into the mindset that the cultural relativist is saying rightness, this thing, moral rightness, is identical to the majority of the culture approving of something. Just as, let's say, we were to talk about water and how water is identical to H2O, and we might hypothesize what would be the case if water were H3O. Would it boil at a different temperature or things of that sort, or what sort of thing would it look like? In the same way, we're trying to figure out, well, what if rightness is identical to being approved by the culture? And we looked at reasons for thinking cultural relativism is true. We looked at some objections to cultural relativism, like the fact that if cultural relativism is true, there's just no such thing as moral progress whatsoever. You just can't make moral progress if cultural relativism is true, because the majority is infallible. They're always right. If you're in the minority point of view, you're just out of luck if cultural relativism is true. And so you may have found some things about cultural relativism intriguing. You may have liked certain aspects, but you may have found the objections just too difficult for you to overcome. You might think that they're just too devastating to rationally accept the view. Well, maybe subjectivism will be something that you prefer instead. So the subjectivist comes along and says, I'll tell you what makes an act right. It's not that the culture approves of it. That's not what makes an act right. An act is right when I approve of it, when it causes in me a feeling of approval. Notice, we don't say an act is right when I believe that it's right. That's a bad formulation of subjectivism for reasons I've stated in the book. So make sure on the test you don't say an act is right when I believe that it's right. That's not the subjectivist view. The subjectivist view is an act is right when I approve of it. Do people go around saying an act is right when I believe that it's right? Yes, but what they're saying is absolute nonsense. And I explain, I think, a little bit why in the book, especially in the cultural relativism chapter. So we're trying to give subjectivism the best formulation possible. And the best formulation is to say an act is right when I approve of it. That's what makes an act right. I am the standard of what is right or wrong. I determine what's right or wrong by my attitudes of approval or disapproval. So morality doesn't depend on the culture. What's right or wrong depends on me. I make acts right or wrong by my feelings of approval or disapproval, says the subjectivist.